Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We are, in fact, coming to you from the Agnes Varis NJTV studio in Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. It is my honor, pleasure to introduce for the first time on State of Affairs Sue Fulton, who is Chair and Chief Administrator, New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission. Good to see you, Chief.
Thanks so much, Steve. Happy to be here.
You're at a cocktail party. Someone says, "What exactly do you do?" How do you answer that?
I say I run all the DMVs in New Jersey because everybody knows what the DMV is.
Right?
Even though that's, we've been Motor Vehicle Commission for, since 2005 or something.
A bit of a branding issue?
Well, I've talked to motor vehicle administrators across the country. They all have the same issue. They call it whatever, but people know the DMV.
The responsibilities include? Break that down for us.
Primarily, it's licensing and registration. Now, licensing includes not just your individual license that everybody's familiar with, but the commercial driver's license as well. And there are any number of endorsements depending on the kind of vehicle that you're licensed to drive. And then registrations, the same thing: title, lien, registrations, all of the things in that category.
Technology. Anyone who's been out there, and we all have to do what we are supposed to do as it relates to our cars and their safety and renewing our license, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm curious, how has technology, say in the last 5 years, just 3 to 5 years, changed the way you and your colleagues work?
Well, that's a dicey question because...
Why?
Because technology changes, but keep in mind, motor vehicles, and this isn't just New Jersey, this is across the United States, motor vehicles has some 60, 70 years of data. And most states have this data stored in mainframes that date back, usually to like the 70s or the, maybe early 80s. So the upside, the downside of that is obvious. You're talking about hardware that's dated. Mm. But by the same token, you're also talking about hardware that's very secure, that's very, very tough to invade or to hack. So we are not at the same place with information technology that corporations might be, because this is a massive amount of data that we're keeping safe. By the same token, there are so many different developments that have influenced this. Right now, there are states that are looking at mobile driver licenses, meaning having your driver license on your phone. So the data is secured, but so let's say you get pulled over, your phone gets pinged with a request from law enforcement. What's to release your driver license? You give that permission, and before the officer gets to your car, he can take a look at that license and review everything. So he knows that everything's on the up and up. This is your vehicle because he's looking at your license plate, and then he's already got that information. The other thing with a mobile driver license, and I'm selling technology that we're not ready to move to.
But it is, do certain states actually do this?
There are pilot programs with a mobile driver license.
So as opposed to across the state, Maryland's piloting it.
Right.
Do you folks talk to each other about better ways to do what you do?
Absolutely. The American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators is a national organization. The people who are running it are people who've had years of experience in this arena. The administrators, as well as their senior staff, we talk to each other about best practices. The thing about moving technology is that, we can't put the car in the shop to change all the technology, right? Because we're servicing, we're serving millions of transactions every year.
Millions.
Transactions.
Absolutely.
Every year. So, we close, look at the impact when we have a computer outage, as we've had, and people can't get served. There are a number of New Jerseyans who are inconvenienced by that. So we have to keep our services going while we do upgrades. We're fixing the car while it's moving, right?
I love it.
So as a consequence, a lot of us, as I said, in all the states, we're a little bit behind, but we're looking at ways, particularly New Jersey, to do that in a reasonable and practical way.
By the way, let's put up the website for the Motor Vehicle Commission. We are, in fact, speaking to Sue Fulton, who is the chair. The chief, I apologize. The chief.
Chair and chief administrator. So
I got it.
Yes.
The chief of the Motor Vehicle Commission in the state. I was telling you before we got in the air that we've been involved in public awareness and education around organ and tissue donation with some folks at the Sharing Network that you know very well. The one thing that and by the way, there are thousands, literally thousands of New Jerseyans and many, many more Americans waiting for an organ to survive, to live. What exactly is the process in terms of your renewing of the license, and what can you do? A loaded question, I know we're talking about technology. Can they actually go online and register as an organ donor?
You absolutely can, Steve. And so let me talk about when you go in for your initial license or you go into an agency for your renewal, there's a signature pad there, and it will prompt you, do you want to be an organ donor?
Straight up, yes or no?
That's right. That's right. It's that easy. And if you say yes, that's recorded on your card, and you're registered in the National Registry as well. Now, say you haven't opted to be an organ donor in the past, and you want to change that. Your license isn't expiring, you're not really due for renewal, you can still go online.
Even if you have not registered as an organ donor in the past, you could do it even if you're not up for renewal?
That's exactly right. You can go online, and in fact, the law was passed that okay, other changes to your driver license, if you're not due, will cost you money. Changing your status as an organ donor costs you nothing. Nothing. You go in, you change that, I now want to be reflected as an organ donor, and that will be changed. We will send your information to the National Registry of Organ Donors so that they're aware of that, and that costs you nothing.
By the way, we are in fact speaking to Sue Fulton, the chief of New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission. I was saying I happen to go where I live. East Orange is closest to me. And I like the people are great there and everything's fine. But for people who say, you know what? Those lines, and there were times, and there have been times, that they're really long. What specifically is being done to ameliorate that?
That's a great question, Steve. And there's not a magic wand we can wave that's gonna alleviate the waits at motor vehicles. It's a lot of little improvements that we need to make. Now, there are some IT improvements. You mentioned IT earlier. There was, in the past administration, they touted a transformation project that was going to modernize all our systems. What ended up happening was all those resources were diverted to Real ID. And if I might talk about Real ID for a minute, Real ID is going to be the new federal standard for identification. So as of October of 2020, if you want to fly domestically, or if you want to enter a federal facility, a military facility, or for certain federal benefits, for federal purposes, you need to meet the Real ID standard. That requires changes on our part at Motor Vehicle Commission. So it is a priority that we have to convert over to Real ID, huge IT lift. That said, all of the modernization efforts that had been talked about and planned, all that funding and resources went into Real ID. So we haven't done the kinds of modernization we need to do. Modernization that would, for instance, allow you to schedule appointments.
As opposed to just going cold.
As opposed to just going in and then standing on that line and waiting. There are some IT projects that would allow you to do more online. Now, I will say, right now, the use of our online services, for instance, you can...
Got a few seconds left. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Renew your registration. Use of online services is very low.
You're saying you can renew your registration
online. Don't even go to
Hold on. I'm due for my license. I can't do it online. I have to go to... I just want to clarify. I have to go to one of the offices.
Okay.
Registration is different.
Two things. One, registration is different.
I don't want to make this about me. I just know there's a lot of other people dealing with this. Go ahead.
Let's make it about you, Steve.
No, don't.
Okay. No, registration renewal you can do online. You go online with that.
Put the website up.
With that envelope. With that envelope you get, it's got a PIN number. You go online. You renew your registration online. Now, driver renewals, every 4 years you have to renew that driver license.
They got to see you.
Only every 8 years.
Really?
Only every 8 years. So what will happen is you're ready for a driver license renewal, you'll get another envelope, and on there it'll say skip the trip, mail this in, and you mail it in. You don't have to go in.
And you find that on the website? It's up there right now.
Absolutely.
Can we find that out?
Skip the trip for your driver license renewal and registration renewals online.
You are the chief, Chief Sue Fulton, who is the chair and chief administrator, New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission. I promise you I will get to where I need to go and take care of it. And by the way, everybody else do the right thing.
You bet.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Stay right there.
All right.
See how we matched? We coordinated.
We did. We worked this out.
No, we didn't. Back right after this.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, New Jersey Sharing Network, TD Bank, PSC&G, St. Joseph's Health, and by Adler Aphasia Center. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com. And by Meadowlands Regional Chamber, building essential connections that drive business growth.